Keldeo and friends for Ishizu's deck get the chance to merge with Tearlaments for a pretty interesting deck. And we have one of the more interesting Crooked Cook decks that I have seen in a very long time. I'm betting 30% of you guys have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up the 100k ladder. What happens when you take all of the monsters like Agido, Mudora here, and all of these that all have this interesting synergy level of all triggering when being sent from the deck to the graveyard, and you combine them with another archetype that wants to interact and send from the deck? Well, you get this really weird Tearlaments list down here that is taking advantage of, Exchange of the Spirits and Gravekeeper's Trap. Oh boy, just each player swaps the cards in their graveyard with the cards in their deck and shuffles their deck. Alright, you can only use that effect once per duel, but it's going to be an interesting little change reaction here for fueling up. So we have 2 copies of Shaddoll Beast, triple copies of Shaylin, 2 copies of Reno Heart, triple copies of Kelbeck, the Ancient Vanguard, triple copies of Mudora, the Cultist Oracle, triple copies of Agido, and then we have triple copies of Keldo, the Possessed Statue. Then we have triple copies of Hoffins here, with 2 copies of Myru, 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. We have 1 Foolish Burial, 2 Called by the Grave. We have triple copies of the beautiful Field Spell. I still love that art. 2 copies of Exchange of the Spirit, 2 Matanese. We have 1 copy of Blast Held by Fate, and triple copies of the Gravekeeper's Trap card here, which is going to give you a lot of additional stuff here. Getting the discard add from your deck, yes, when sent to the graveyard. My perfect little addition here. Extra here, we have 1 Dahark, 1 Avermax with 1 Underworld Goddess, 1 Abyssdweller, 1 Baguski, 1 Time Thief Redor, 1 Zeus, 2 Windas, 2 copies of the Kitkalos, 2 Dragostapelli, and 2 copies of the big Kaleido Heart here. Wrapping up our Earth Tearlaments list, and this is quite a hilarious take on this deck here. Next up is David Bowie in the Labyrinth, ladies and gentlemen. This actually won a little OCG championship event held by their store, and I think it's very interesting to see just the general developments of this deck mid-Spright format, because you basically are trying to play a stun deck here in midst of one of the crazier formats present right now. So you're going to have to kind of adjust and pull out more of these power stops in order to kind of adapt, and that's what you're seeing here actually. So we have 2 copies of Labrynth of the Silver Castle, 1 copy of Ariane, 2 copies of Ariana, we have triple copies of the Chandelier, 2 copies of Maxi for draw power, 2 copies of my Stove, triple copies of Absolute King Backjack. Actually, the value you get with this card in this deck is astronomical. We have triple copies of Pot of Extravagance, 2 copies of the Labrynth, 2 copies of Archfiend Glitch, triple copies of Welcome Labyrinth, triple copies of Torrential Tribute for generic board wipes, 2 copies of Trap Trick, 2 copies of Dogmatica Punishment, triple copies of Dimensional Barrier, 2 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device, 1 copy of the Dragon King's Aura. When your opponent activates a monster effect or on the field, negate that activation if you destroy that monster. Then you can banish 1 monster from your hand, and if you do, special summon that monster was destroyed by this effect and sent to the graveyard to your field, but negate its effects. Oh, well, that's really good. That's a free Monster Reborn, jack an opponent's resource, and then laugh at them because now they have to out it. Then we have 2 Solemn Strikes here. Down here in the extra deck, we have 1 Linkuriboh, 2 Nightmare Cerberus, 2 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Griffin, 1 Abomination, with 1 copy of the Goddess, 1 Exciton Knight with 1 Baguski. We have 1 Wind Pegasus with 1 Cyframe Lord Omega, 1 Star Eater, and 2 copies of Venintis here, wrapping up our little Labyrinth experiment here. Now, next up, we have FPS Simulator. Now, this is actually quite interesting because we're using Astral Kuriboh here to actually be able to make Crooked Cook. And I was actually very intrigued when I first saw this list, because I was like, okay, so we're doing Astral Kuriboh with a side of Alistair the Invoker? Okay. So, yes, I understand that we don't have triple reasoning here. I mean, being able to mill a multitude of spells to access your monster does make this a little bit stronger in the OCG. But just because we don't have access to that doesn't mean anything here. Also, the fact that this stupid thing gets to act as a huge tuner to make better option trees here is absolutely amazing. Alright, so we have 2 copies of Lava Golem, 1 copy of Pankratops, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 2 copies of Alistair the Invoker, 2 copies of Astral Kribo, we have 1 copy of the Yamato Orochi, or Yamatako Orochi, 1 Talents, 2 Dark Rule No Mores, triple copies of Reasoning, 1 copy of Terraforming, 1 Invocation, 2 copies of the Golden Droplets, 2 Called by the Graves, triple copies of the Freezing Curse, triple copies of Point of the Mystery Rune. We have 1 Dispel, triple copies of Slumber, triple copies of Brilliant Flame, 1 Raging Storm, triple copies of Destruction, and triple copies of our field spell that says, haha, draw 3 cards. Turning the extra deck, we have 1 Virus Swordsman, 1 Baguski with 1 Crooked Cook, 1 copy of the Chang Xing with 1 Punisher. We have triple copies of Hugin, and then we have 1 copy of Moonin, and triple copies of Gerald. And then we have 1 copy of Purgatrio, 1 Agoides, and 1 Makaba here, wrapping up our Mystery Rune deck. And all things considered, I do like your options here, and I do think that Yamato Orochi here, just being actually an amazing card, is absolutely amazing. Alright, next up here, this is our fusion pile. That's frickin' crawlers, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting the chance to play flip dot deck here with That Grass Looks Greener with a crawler package in this deck. Now, initially when I saw this, I was like, holy crap, what is going on here? Why are we doing OCG shenanigans here with crawler stuff? Well, considering the fact that Grass Looks Greener just turns your entire deck on is absolutely hilarious. So this is like the evolution of the fusion toolbox on a whole different crazy level that is actually insanity. So we have 1 Nibiru, 1 copy of the Hell Shadal Hollow, triple copies of Soma. We have 1 Shadal Beast with 1 Dragon, 1 copy of Fairy Tale Snow, 2 copies of Shaylin, triple copies of Squamata, triple copies of Reno Heart with 1 Ariel, 2 copies of Hoffins, 2 copies of Windy, 2 copies of everybody's favorite little hedgehog, triple copies of Ash Blossom, 1 Ghost Ogre, 1 Ghost Bell, 1 copy of Renvier. We have triple Swap Frog with 1 copy of Receptor, 1 Myru, triple copies of Maxi, 1 Ronin Totem with 1 Effect Veiler, 1 copy of Instant Fusion, 2 Grass Looks Greener, 1 Talents, triple copies of Shadal Fusion, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 All Shadal Fusion, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator. Then we have triple copies of the Field Spell, 1 Imperm, 1 Incarnation, 2 Metanizi, 1 Core, and 1 copy of Schism. And then in the next deck we have 1 Shadal Link 2, 1 copy of Spright Elf, 1 copy of Gigantic Spright, 1 Totally Awesome, 2 Windows, 2 copies of Kitkaloso, 1 App Cologne, 1 Grista, 1 Dragostapelia, 1 Construct, 1 Water Shadal, 1 Kaleido Heart, and 1 copy of Shekinah here, wrapping up your chunk of interesting combination for this list. That's all I really gotta say about that. And then we have Melfy Spright. I had heard legends out here of people wanting to play this deck, and the fact that we finally get to see it, the fact that Wallaby here just gets to bring out 2 friends instead of your usual small group is what really kind of makes this version a little bit better. I mean, outside of that, obviously, like Nimble Beaver value is still amazing. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Snow, 1 copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, triple copies of Spright Jet, 1 Spright Red, triple copies of Spright Blue, 1 Spright Carrot, triple copies of Swap Frog, triple copies of Maxi, triple copies of the Little Beaver, 1 copy of Hoppier Squadron, 1 Puppy, 1 Calinisto, 1 Caddy, 1 Ronin Totem, 1 Dupe Frog, 1 Wallaby, and 2 Effect Veiler. Then we have triple starter, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Croissant Designator, 1 copy of Smashers, and triple copies of Imperm. Then down here in the extra, we have 1 Almirage, 2 copies of Spright Elf, 1 D-Hark, 1 copy of Unicorn, 1 copy of Little Cat Shark, 1 Melfys of the Forest, 2 Gigantic Spright, 1 Onabaru of the Soul Sweeper. We have 1 Melfys Joyous, 1 Totally Awesome, 1 Downard, 1 Sky Thunder, and 1 Cheerful Melfys. Inside deck here we have 1 Space Rock, 1 Ghost Ogre, 1 Ghost Bell, 1 DD Crow, 1 Lightning Storm, 1 Feather Duster, 2 Dark Roller No More, 1 Cosmic, 1 Twin Twister, 1 Evenly Matched, 2 D-Bear, and 2 copies of Solemn Judgment, wrapping up this chunk of deck profiles for you guys. So what do you guys think about these? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button. I'll see your beautiful faces back at the end of the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.